Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name is Jerry. I'm your host. I'm a former chiropractor. I help chiropractors with websites and local SEO. I help new chiropractors get started. I help stuck chiropractors get unstuck, and I host this little podcast. Today we're going to talk about the things that are worth fighting for in the chiropractic profession. There's a lot of things that chiropractors fight over. There's a lot of infighting within the chiropractic profession. And on my last episode, I did a podcast where I talked about is the chiropractic profession, are we at risk of losing the profession? And I talked about some different fears that chiropractors have and whether they're legitimate or not, and just sort of did an overview of some of those thoughts. I didn't know if I was going to do a follow-up, but the more that I think about it, the more I wanted to just talk about, what are the things that chiropractors should protect? What are the things that are most important for our profession going forward? This is my perspective. I acknowledge the fact that I'm a nobody, I'm a nothing in the chiropractic space, and that the 7 people that listen to this podcast are probably going to disagree with me, and that's just kind of how chiropractors are. So maybe I'm just doing this as a thought exercise, but I did want to talk about this, and I do think that I've come to a really strong conclusion for myself, what I think the chiropractic profession needs to do kind of as I've thought about this. And so we'll just kind of unpack this and talk about it on this episode. Now, before I get into that, I do want to say, if you want a better chiropractic website or you want help with local SEO, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. I'll be happy to help you however I can. If you're a new chiropractor or you're feeling stuck, you've been out for a little while and you want to go beyond the podcast, you want some additional business and marketing help, you want some more access to me, check out my Next Step program. Those all can be found at rocketchiro.com. If you want some really valuable free information that's not going to cost you anything because you're a tightwad, you can go to Rocket Chiro and request a website and SEO review. I'll be happy to look at your website and SEO. I didn't mean to call you a tightwad, but I'd be happy to look at your website and SEO and give you some recommendations. No pressure, no obligation, no name calling. I promise I won't call you a name. It'll be completely private. I'll look at your stuff specifically. I'll send you a video that's custom for you and just give you some really good information. If we can work together, great. If we can't and you can just take the information and run with it, that's fine too. All right, so let's kind of talk about this. There's so much fighting within chiropractic, and we fight amongst ourselves. Even the vitalistic circles, you could get a group. I was in the upper cervical world when I was in practice because I did mostly upper cervical, and even within upper cervical, it's like you could get a bunch of upper cervical techniques together and they can't agree on an x-ray. They can't agree on analysis. They can't agree on lines of drive and what you're doing and what you're not doing and what the body's doing and what you're doing. And there's all these arguments, and it's sort of ridiculous. And there's this idea of like a city divided can't stand, a house divided amongst itself is going to fall, like that sort of idea. And that's how the chiropractic profession has been since the beginning. Like there's so much internal turmoil and so much fighting. And I made the comment on my last podcast that I think BJ started this fight and it's been stupid from the start. I kind of stand by that. I think that the fight of what it means to be a real chiropractor when you're talking about vitalism and subluxation versus a more therapeutic approach to chiropractic, I don't like that argument. And here's the conclusion, and I'll kind of give you this, and then we'll kind of go into some of the things that I think are worth fighting for as chiropractors. So if you don't agree with this conclusion, you're probably not going to like anything else I have to say. But the thing that I feel incredibly strong about after having thought about this and wrote some things down and did a couple podcasts about it, I feel very strongly about the fact that the chiropractic profession needs to be a dual philosophy profession. We need to be okay with that. Instead of chiropractors who want to practice subluxation and more of a vitalistic wellness, nervous system approach to health, looking at a more therapeutic approach, a more evidence-based approach, however you want to say it, and looking at them and saying, you're not a real chiropractor, or we need to stop you from doing that, and we need to like badmouth you for doing whatever, ultrasound or doing, shockwave or whatever it is you're doing in your practice. And then the evidence-based chiropractors making fun of the vitalistic chiropractors because there's not evidence that chiropractic helps ear infections, or there's not evidence that whatever. And I'm just kind of saying stuff. If there is evidence of that, I don't listen. I'm not arguing the point. I'm just saying this is nonsense. Because what happens is if as a profession we could just agree that the body heals itself, that we are spine experts, like that's what we do, is we do this, we work on with the spine, and we work with joints and muscles and whatnot, but we work with the spine primarily, and that's how we help people, non-drugs, non-surgery, like that's our approach. And that's what I talked about on my last episode. If we could agree on that, and we could agree that the way that we practically apply that philosophically differs between chiropractors. Some chiropractors are going to have a therapeutic, more of a therapy type approach to care, and some chiropractors are going to have more of a wellness approach to care. If we can agree that that's okay, we could move forward and communicate that to the public so that the public could understand that sometimes we'll take like food, for instance. Like sometimes you may eat certain foods to treat a particular ailment. Sometimes you may eat certain foods to improve your health overall and prevent certain things. It doesn't mean that either one of those things are wrong. It just means it's doing the same thing for a different reason. And the people that are selling food are not fighting about this. Like that's not what they're doing, because that's stupid. Can we just be honest? That's stupid. And I've used this analogy before when I've talked about this on the podcast, and that's about a gym. There's a lot of really good health and wellness benefits to go to a gym. There's also really shallow reasons to go to a gym. Things like wanting to lose weight, wanting to look sexy, wanting to get ripped, like wanting to get to bigger biceps or bigger chests or whatever. There's very, very superficial reasons why people go to the gym. There's also very noble reasons why people go to the gym, because like, man, I just, I had a health scare and I got to lose some weight. I've got to get my cardio up. My heart's weak. I need to strengthen that. Like my breathing's bad. I need to get that better. There's a lot of really, really good reasons. You know how ridiculously stupid it would be for gym owners to argue amongst themselves, like what real exercise is and what real exercise isn't? What the real true benefits of exercise are, and whether someone really believes in exercise or not, and whether they're on board with it or not, whether they get it or not. And the people that do exercise they only help people like, look sexy and build muscle. Like those aren't real gyms. Those are just the fake gyms, because they're not helping people improve their breathing and sleep better and have better sex and whatever, like have a stronger immune system. Oh my gosh. Like how stupid is that? How stupid is that? And that's what I mean when I say like BJ started this fight and it's a stupid fight. Because both things are true. We know both things are true because both sides argue them passionately. And if you don't think there's a vitalistic component to chiropractic, get your head out of your ass. Like seriously. But if you don't think that chiropractic can be used for a therapy and does a great job of helping people get out of pain, you also need to get your head out of your ass. Like, please knock it off. There are benefits to chiropractic that are different than your personal philosophy, and your personal philosophy doesn't dictate how someone benefits from chiropractic. It's so stupid. There's so many people that need what chiropractors offer. There's so many people that need what we do, but we can't get out of our own way because we can't agree that someone who goes about practicing chiropractic differently than I do, like they're not a real chiropractor, and we're going to fight against them. Could we just agree that it's a bi-philosophy, a dual philosophy profession? Or maybe there's one philosophy, the body can heal itself, and then how we apply that is there's a duality that I don't know. Like I don't even know how to say it. But if we could just agree that evidence-based chiropractors who just want to do backs and necks, like they're real chiropractors, and chiropractors who do subluxation-based chiropractors, they're real chiropractors too. And the reason that everyone gets upset with everyone else is because we haven't communicated to the public that there's a difference. And so when a subluxation-based patient that's not really what they wanted, and that's not really what they were hoping for, and they were kind of hoping for a therapeutic approach, they don't get what they want when they go to a subluxation-based chiropractor, and then they go to a evidence-based chiropractor, and the evidence-based chiropractor says, those guys are terrible, and they're wrong, and they're bad, and I can't believe they do that. They're such liars. And then someone who wants a more holistic approach to chiropractic goes to a therapeutic chiropractor, and they don't like the fact that they're just being treated like a like a therapy, and then they go to a vitalistic chiropractor and they're super happy and excited. And then that chiropractor's like, oh, those chiropractors aren't real chiropractors. They're just physical therapists. It's so dumb. It really is dumb. Like, we should stop this. And I know, like I said, the 7 people that listen to my podcast are not, I mean, we're not going to make a difference. We're going to be like that guy on Instagram that we need 100,000 chiropractors all agreeing on the same thing. Whatever. All right. Anyway, let's talk about things that are worth fighting over for those of you, the 3 people of the 7 that are still left. So I think there's 9 things that chiropractors should protect and fight. There's probably some overlap in some of these, but I'll just kind of go through these really quick. I think we should protect a drug-free, non-surgery approach. I think that chiropractic should remain, we don't do drugs, we don't do surgery. I think if you get outside, you start adding that stuff, I think you're at risk of losing the profession. Genuinely. Number 2, I think we should protect direct access and our autonomy. If any chiropractor is in favor of giving this up so that they can be real doctors or be a part of the medical profession or whatever, like if you're going to give up that, I think you're out of your mind. I think you're crazy. Number 3 is I think we should always be spine first, spine experts. I think that, and this sort of goes into number 4, which is manual therapy and adjustments. Like, I think that should be our primary thing. And last episode, I talked about being spine first or spine centric. I probably didn't say enough about the adjustment. I really do think the adjustment should be at the forefront of being a chiropractor. And I'm not saying manual adjustments versus instruments or whatever. I just think that the spinal adjustment should be the primary thing that chiropractors are known for. And when you start getting away from that, and I'm okay with chiropractors doing other things, but when you get so far away from it as a profession, I'm not talking about individually, but as a profession, you're so far away from it that it just is not what we're known for anymore. I think that's a problem. I think we're losing we're losing our identity at that point, because being spine centric, spine first, and then being really good at the adjustment, I think that's really a foundational part of being a chiropractor. Regardless of your philosophy. Number 5, patient-centered care recommendations. This has to do with the insurance discussion we had last time, where it's like, when you start having insurance that dictates what you can and can't do with patients, I think that's a problem. Chiropractic has traditionally been more focused on what the patient needs and wants. I think once you get insurance involved, insurance starts dictating things, but I think that's not probably good. Number 6 is wellness philosophy and holistic care. I think that should be a part of chiropractic. I would never advocate getting rid of it. I think that we should be very careful what we say. I think that we should be very clear about what we mean when we say it. There's a lot of vagueness that is in wellness chiropractic, vitalistic chiropractic. There's a lot of, we don't treat anything. The body can heal itself. And then we list a bunch of things on our website that respond well to care, but we didn't say we treated anything. There's a lot of like that goes on in chiropractic that I think could be cleaned up. Like, we could do a better job of communicating what exactly we do and what we don't do in a way that's fair and honest, not in a way that's sort of deceptive or a little bit just not clear. Number 7 is evidence-informed practice. I think that evidence-based care, evidence-informed practice is a good thing. Frankly, I would love to see more evidence and more research on the wellness side of chiropractic, and some of these things that chiropractors say, where like, oh, your power's on or whatever. I would love to know more specifically what exactly happens with the chiropractic adjustment. What do we know? What can we say for sure happened with an individual patient? How do we know it happened? What vitalistic chiropractors tend to do from a research standpoint is they'll pull out little things that are sort of not really related directly to chiropractic, and then they'll connect them to chiropractic. And that's not me criticizing the idea. It's me saying I would actually really like to see, and I understand it costs money and there's no money for it. Nobody's making money on this, which is why it doesn't happen. But I would love to see more research done, and very detailed research done on the vitalistic side of chiropractic. I think it would be cool. So I think if we're going to throw out evidence-based practice, that's sort of dumb, because I think we should be trying to prove everything that we think happens with chiropractic all across the board. And if we can't prove it and it doesn't happen, then we should be very, very careful about what we're saying we do and what we don't do. That's kind of my personal philosophy. Number 8, I think we should be fighting to raise internal standards and ethics. We don't do a good job of this as chiropractors. Sometimes we're interested in limiting scope of practice instead of raising ethics. I talked about that a little bit on the podcast last time, but just the idea that If you say you do something, you should actually do it. You should have the qualifications for it. It shouldn't just be something that you say you do, but you don't really do. I ran into that in my area when I was in practice. Like I had some patients that came to me specifically for upper cervical. And then because my practice had a little bit of momentum, there were other chiropractors in the area that would answer the question like, oh yeah, we do upper cervical, because I never accepted insurance. Like I wasn't in network with anyone. And there were patients that they wanted the upper cervical, but they wanted somebody in network. So they would call around and the people in their network and they would be like, hey, do you do upper cervical? And they would say, yeah, we adjust the top of the neck. It's like, that's not what they ask. And you're being dishonest when you answer that question, but when you answer it that way. But that's the sort of thing that I mean when I say like, we should be raising standards and raising ethics. We should be holding each other to a very high level of accountability. I wish chiropractic was known for excellence, and we're not. Number 9, clear public message. This sort of has to do with the thing I talked about originally, which is if we could agree that we have a dual philosophy and a dual approach to chiropractic, and that's okay, that I think we could go about communicating that clearly to the public. And I think people are smart enough to understand it. So those are the things that I would fight for in chiropractic. I think all the infighting and some of the other stuff, I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to wrap it up with some final thoughts. I want to remind you guys that the profession only gets lost if we lose it. If we do at some point, like chiropractic's not chiropractic anymore and it goes the way of the osteopath or whatever, that's our fault. Like we did that. Like we made choices that kind of took us down in that direction. And so just being accountable for yourself and holding the line where we need to hold the line, I think is important. I don't think that it's invalid to be concerned that 50 years from now or 100 years from now, where it's like our chiropractic grandchildren or great grandchildren or whatever, like we want them to be able to have a profession and be able to practice, and we don't want the things that we did or didn't do to prevent them from having a profession or having the opportunity to do that down the road. Like I totally understand that. And so I think practicing in such a way and acting in such a way that is going to happen or likely to happen is a good thing. Human beings tend to be very focused on themselves and what benefits them at the moment, not necessarily thinking about the next generation and the one past that. If we get clear, another point, wrap this up, is if we get clear about what we're fighting for, then I think we could fight better. I think we should just stop fighting about the vitalistic, the subluxation versus evidence-based. I think it's a dumb fight. I think we should stop fighting that. I think we should agree, like figure out what we agree on. These are the things I think we could probably all agree on or mostly all agree on. And then figure out how to communicate that to the public without crapping on each other for not practicing chiropractic the way that we would personally. I just think it's dumb. So those are my thoughts, guys. Hopefully like I said, the 3 people that are listening find this helpful. And if you need help with your website and SEO, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. If you'd like me to look at your website and SEO, I'd be happy to do that for free. No name calling at rocketchiro.com. If you want some help to go beyond the podcast, check out my Next Step program. It's a great place to do that. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. I'll talk to you guys on the next episode.